Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the update over at the Avdiivka front. And the only way I can describe what I'm looking at is parallel universe. There's a significant parallel universe over at the Avdiivka front, and particularly we are talking about the area around, around Sjeverne. And the Sjeverne region, oh my god, it's so interesting. So previously we have information that the Ukrainians actually captured this stronghold, this fortification, and the Ukrainians are actually, making a push towards Vodyane, putting a lot of pressure on the Russians of in all directions. And it looks like, the Russians might actually not be able to hold Vodyane. Then, in the latest information that I see from over the past 2 days, the Russians are actually in the advance. They are actually the one having success. The front line from pro-Russian sources is actually here, just off Sjeverne, the Ukrainian-controlled town of Sjeverne or Sjeverne. The Russians actually made progress over this region. They actually broke the Ukrainian lines after a failed offensive by the Ukrainians as they attacked. And then the attack failed. As they withdraw, the Russians actually followed them and captured more grounds. And now they're just off the outskirts of Sjeverne. And this actually answers my curiosity, because I have been seeing that even the Ukrainians are talking about being attacked at Sjeverne. And that is very unusual, because the Sjeverne is usually being mentioned by the Russian Defense Ministry, not that much by the Ukrainians. And the Ukrainians are saying that the Russians are attacking Sjeverne, which is kind of weird. And with the information coming from the pro-Russian source Ryba, it actually invalidates what Surya Maps has been reporting. And Surya Maps usually is not wrong. He's always very, very accurate. So I'm not sure what could have happened over the past week, that the Ukrainians were actually very successful controlling the lines, getting closer and closer to Vodyane, and somehow the entire thing just fall apart. We still have information of the Ukrainians attacking. They are currently attacking Opitne, which is actually the progress over at Opitne was reported by Deep State UA and Surya Maps earlier. I think it's 1 week or 2 weeks ago, which was reporting the progress over at this area here. So it all comes together with the reports at Vodyane. So now that this suddenly happens, it could be a possibility that the Russians suddenly decided to go on an offensive, and they pick a time where the Ukrainians are totally not prepared for it, and the time is actually immediately after a failed assault. So when the Ukrainians push, they failed, and then immediately follow them home. So that is kind of a interesting thing to do. And this also spells another issue I think I'm starting to see across the entire front line, is that the Ukrainians, despite they are able to advance, they have trouble reinforcing the force that is actually at the front line. So it could be a case where the Ukrainians actually moved all the way to Vodyane, capture the stronghold, and they're really at the verge of attacking into Vodyane itself. But the reinforcement from the rear to the front line constantly get bombarded by the Russians, and the lack of reinforcement maybe is the reason why the Ukrainians continue to lose the front line despite they actually made progress. And we still have information of the Ukrainians attacking around this region at Opitne and over at Pervomansky. The Ukrainians are still attacking. They are still doing the attacking. It's just that over at this Vodyane region, in the north of Vodyane, the fighting actually reached the south of Sjeverne. This is just like mind-blowing to me. So on the other part of the Avdiivka front, there is also news. The Russians are still continuing to be attacking from the east of Avdiivka, and the latest information also is some kind of a parallel universe. Previously, the Ukrainians were on the offensive, and they were attacking Vasily. They were attacking from multiple directions, and the front line even reached the outskirts of Vasily. In the latest information, the Russians actually attack into the Avdiivka dacha. This area here is the dachas, or the holiday houses in at Avdiivka, and the Russians were actually attacking it. And the initial information suggests that the attack has not been successful. This information coming from pro-Russian sources, but this also shows that the Russians actually got control. They already brought the situation over at this region into control, and they actually recaptured and recontrol the front line and build up the front line between all the different lakes and ponds around this region here, which means that the Russian forces have strengthened the lines around this area here, and they have expanded the boundaries, or the buffer zone around Vasily, and now they are on the offensive into the dacha regions of Avdiivka city. And this, on top of this, the Russians are also on the offensive over the north of Krasnohorivka. So this area here, this town here is Krasnohorivka, and the Russians are actually attacking northward, and they are actually getting success over in this area here around Krasnohorivka. So and I can also confirm that the Russian sources corroborated that the Ukrainians actually did have success, as the front line marked on the pro-Russian mapping suggests that the Ukrainians did indeed capture all these grounds on the western part of Krasnohorivka. So which means that if this is accurate, then the offensive of the Ukrainians towards Vasily is also accurate. That means all the information checks out, which means the Russians are now on the counter-offensive over at the Avdiivka, and they are doing it on two sides, exactly the two places that the Ukrainians are trying to cut off, the two teeth, where the Russians here, they will bite and chew off and encircle the entire Avdiivka force over here, the pincer movement. So this pincer is getting very, very clear, and the fall of Sjeverne will be disastrous for the Ukrainians, because it will give the Russians a strong foundation to capture Tonenke and go up towards Avdiivka. They can even totally ignore Latoshkine. They can just go to Tonenke, Avdiivka, and the entire Ukrainian only road to resupply Avdiivka will be gone, will be totally wiped out. And then the Ukrainians will be operationally encircled simply by losing Avdiivka, and it's not that far away for the Russian forces to capture. So anyway, this is the situation over at the Avdiivka front. I hope you find this intriguing as I do, or maybe I'm just a nerd, and then I thought that, you know, this is very cool, and then you guys just think that this is just lame. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next update.